is Lucas Klein. I'm one of the teachers here at Roca Eterna. Alright, so this portion is Matot, Masei. Now this one is going to be a little more wordy than normal. Okay, and that's okay. Alright, that's okay. We're going to summarize it after we read it. Okay, I do have pictures. You're going to see the same one that Rico Jr. had in his PowerPoint. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and do the blessing. Bless Adonai who is blessed. Blessed is Adonai who is blessed now and forever. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who has chosen us from among the peoples and given us the Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives the Torah. So for this portion, can you see it on the screen okay with the colors? Because if not, I could pull up the board and we can do it that way, because I know I picked light colors.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. Alright, so we're going to talk about honor and shame. Okay, we're going to talk about a lot of honor and shame when it comes to vows. You all ever heard of a vow?
Something that you promise.
Yeah, that's a promise. Okay. Do you know that a vow is obligatory? You have to do it.
Oh, I don't like that. It's like when you get married, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
but now in these days, it's a little bit different.
It shouldn't be though. I'll talk about that. Alright, so we're going to talk about honor and shame. I'm going to list examples of an honor and shame culture versus our modern Western culture, which is not so great. Okay, so we're going to talk about the differences, and we're going to see actually that honor and shame culture kind of creeps up, and it actually is in our culture sometimes, okay, depending on where you're from. Alright, so also we're going to talk about cultural context, okay, because honor and shame and cultural context kind of goes together. Okay, you're talking about a group of people, how they behave, how they live with one another. Okay, pretty much for the entire portion is going to be cultural, and then honor and shame, and then we're going to touch on righteousness and justice when it comes to the vows of the women. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Maybe a little bit of geographical context when it comes to the cities and the land. Okay, we're not going to go too in depth with it. Okay, you know when I first did this, I had no idea there were animations. So I apologize, because I will have no idea when the animations come up. Okay, so table of contents. We got number one, we're going to talk about vows. Then we're going to talk about the cities. Okay? So, start with vows. Alright, so we're going to read. Anybody want to read?
Me.
Go ahead.
Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of the people of Israel, saying, "This is what the Lord has commanded. If a man vows a vow to the Lord, or swears an oath to, I'm not going to do that, to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. If a woman vows a vow to the Lord and binds herself by a pledge while within her father's house in her youth, and her father hears of her vow and of her pledge by which she has bound herself, and I don't understand what it's saying, and says nothing to her, then all her vows shall stand, and every pledge by which that goes in depth she has bound herself shall stand. But if her father opposes her on the day, so like if it like makes like that he hears of it, no vow of hers, no pledge by which she has bound herself shall stand, and the Lord will forgive her because her father opposed.
So, go ahead. Okay. So, quick question. Who do they vow a vow to? I bolded it.
To the Lord.
To the Lord. Alright, so, whenever we do a vow, okay, so if I promise to do something, who's going to keep me accountable?
Huh?
If I promise to do something, who's going to keep me accountable?
Yourself?
Myself, right?
Your family.
Is that going to work? No. So if I make a vow, if I make a deal, there has to be someone that keeps me accountable. So I invoke a deity. Alright? So, if I used to do this all the time when I was young, okay? I really hope that God doesn't hold it against me. Okay, but I used to make promises that I could never keep. Okay? Yes, I used to do that. Alright? I'm sure you have too, so don't lie. Okay, so we make a vow and we don't realize it, but who are we making the deal with?
With the Lord.
With the Lord. So what happens if we don't do it? If we don't do our part?
You can go to hell.
Well, not exactly.
Yeah, not exactly, but let's just...
It's never a dull moment. It's never a dull moment. Well, it's not going to look good, okay? Because we shame God by doing that, by breaking it. And then also we shame our family. And we're going to talk about that when we talk about honor and shame culture. Alright, so we see that a man makes a vow to the Lord, he has to do it. When a woman, she also has to do it. However, imagine this. This is where righteousness and justice is preserved for the woman. Okay? As a man, if I make a vow, there's nobody else to get me out of it. I have to do it. But if a woman, if you make a vow and you can't fulfill it, you're in trouble. If the man that's in charge of, whether it be a father or a husband, they can break you out of it. That's awesome. Think about it. I wish somebody can get me out of those vows that I did when I was naive, right? But I can't. There's nothing for me to do that, except for women. You did. Okay? So, also, this is really interesting because I remember talking about this with my wife, and she asked her what kind of vow would somebody try to impose. Well, if you marry, this is really important, women. Be careful who you marry.
Oh, that's scary.
Be careful who you marry. Alright? So, imagine marrying an unrighteous man, and he tries to bring shame to you by forcing you to break your vow. What happens? Nothing to her, because the man opposed it. So the man gets in trouble with God, not you. Alright, so next time somebody says to you, well, God wants to put women with a bunch of limits and a bunch of boxes that they can't fulfill, that's not true. Okay, because we see that the honor of the family, the whole family, is preserved by doing so, okay? And sometimes it's not even your fault, like Rico Jr. brought up. If it's your menstrual cycle, you can't go to the temple. And a lot of vows, by the way, are concluded with an offering. Right? Remember the Nazarite vow? You go to the temple, you do the offering. So if you can't enter the temple, you can't conclude the vow, you break the vow. Well, luckily, it's not your fault. It's okay. All right? Who wants to continue?
If she marries a husband while under her vows, or any thoughtless utterance of her lips by which she has bound herself, and her husband hears of it and says nothing to her on the day that he hears, then her vow shall stand, and her pledges by which she has bound herself shall stand. But if, on the day that her husband comes to hear of it, he opposes her, then he makes void her vow that was on her, and the thoughtless utterance of her lips by which she bound herself, and the Lord will forgive her. But any vow of a widow or of a divorced woman, anything by which she has bound herself, shall stand against her. And if she vowed in her husband's house, or bound herself by a pledge with an oath, and her husband shall hear of it, and say nothing to her and did not oppose her, then all her vows shall stand, and every pledge by which she bound herself shall stand.
So, if my wife, right, if she makes a vow, and I hear of it and I don't say anything, it's valid. Okay, but if she makes a vow and I hear of it and I say no, okay, it's void, we're good. Okay, that's the main point from this one. Okay, also, divorced and widowed women, why would they not be able to get out of that? Any thoughts? Does a widowed woman go back to her father's house? Not usually. Okay. Does she have a husband?
No.
So those two routes are void. Can't do them. Okay, so if a widowed or divorced woman says a vow, it's valid from the second she says it. Okay. All right. I think this is the last one before we continue. Anybody? Okay.
But if her husband makes them null and void on the day that he hears them, and whatever proceeds out of her lips concerning her vows or concerning her pledge of herself shall not stand. Her husband has made them void. The Lord will forgive her. Any vow or any binding oath to afflict her, her husband may establish, or her husband may make void. But if her husband says nothing to her from day to day, then he establishes all her vows and her pledges that are upon her. He has established them, because he said nothing to her on the day that he heard of them. But if he makes them null and void after he has heard of them, then he shall bear her iniquity. These are the statutes that the Lord commanded Moses about a man and his wife, and about a father and his daughter, while she is in her youth within her father's house.
So us men have a lot of responsibility. Okay, we really do. All right, because we bear the iniquity of just about every single time. All right, so we have to be very careful. All right, so women, be careful who you marry. All right, let's talk about what a vow is and what it's not. Okay, y'all know what a noun is?
It's something that you do. Oh no, it's something that what is. Like a person, place, and thing.
Person, place, and thing.
And then a verb is something you do.
An action.
So, in when it's used as a noun, as a person, place, or thing, okay, we see that it's similar words. It's a solemn promise. Okay, other words, similar. Oath, pledge, promise, bond, covenant. It sounds really familiar, doesn't it? So covenant, is it binding, legally binding? Yes. Okay, so I think we should approach vows the same way. Okay, because if we break a covenant, is God still shamed? Yes. Yes. Is my family shamed if I break a covenant or an oath? Yes. Okay, so it's still the same thing. Okay? And I Googled how to use vow as a noun in a sense, just to make sure I had it right. Okay. Like this one right here, the bride and groom exchanged vows. So the bride and groom exchanged a promise. Now, what happens if I break the vow? Who's shamed? Me and my God. She breaks her vows. Who's shamed? Herself and her God. Okay? Is that something you want to do? No, but you brought up a good point. Okay, you brought up a good point. You said that in our culture nowadays, they don't really mean much. Right?
It's because everybody's protected.
Everybody's selfish.
Oh, what do you
That's
mean?
the difference. So, if my wife and I, we exchange vows, and I swear to take care of her, to do this, to do this, and if I don't do it, I'm essentially telling her I'm not doing my job as a husband. Okay, and then I don't really care about her. I don't care about the vows. I don't care about the promise. I don't even care about the ketubah, the contract that we sign, because in it contain vows. All right, it's usually just verbal. The vows are verbal, but we see even though a vow is verbal, it's still binding. Okay. Now, I had a conversation with somebody who had mentioned how she has had many husbands. Okay. And that she got into a couple different marriages. Okay, not at the same time, different times. But she had no problem getting a divorce. At the drop of a hat. Okay, you know I'm done. I'm going to move on. What's wrong with that?
She's not really committing.
She's not really committed to it, right? And so, if it happened once, is it more likely to happen again? Yes, it is. Okay, because it tells a lot about the character. Now, I'm not saying that that person's bad or anything like that. I'm just saying that is a culture that we live in. Very selfish. Okay. Now, what if, hypothetically, my wife and I, okay, and we continue each day to do our best to do our vows. We'll fail. Okay, but what if we continuously try? Does that say more commitment, that I'm honoring the vows, or am I just trying to get out of it? Okay, so we're going to talk about that in the future with honor and shame. Okay, so think vow, think covenant. Okay, they're pretty similar in terms of being binding. Okay, so discuss amongst yourselves. When have you heard the term vow? Go ahead, talk. This is your chance to talk.
I vow to do this.
I vow to do this. And if you don't, you have to take it.
Yeah, I do.
I saw
In my mind, with myself.
That's the thing though, as soon as you say you're going to do it, you have to do it.
That's true. People don't understand.
Pretty much just an importance of keeping your word.
Exactly. And so back in the day, your word was everything. Right? That was everything. And so if you don't have it,
Yeah, I don't want to go to hell. Or get killed. Yeah.
so real quick, let's gather back together. Now I want to backtrack. All right. So if you break your vows, it's not selfish inherently. Okay. What happens is if you just leave the commitment with no remorse, that shows a little bit of selfishness. Okay. So there's a difference. All right. I just want to backtrack and say that. All right. Also, that's because nowadays we have, you drive around the road, you see like 10 different divorce lawyer things, right? What are the billboards? That's crazy. Divorce is made readily available. Okay, now marriage, I think Rico said this before, it really makes a lot of sense. Marriage is not so much about physical attraction. It's not. Okay? What it is
Eli the priest was sitting on the seat beside the doorpost of the temple of the Lord. She was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your servant and remember me and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life.
There's a covenant. Okay, this is all verbal. All right, sounds good. So you see that even though vows are verbal, yes, okay, but they're thought of. God takes them very seriously. Okay, so please don't forget. All right, review questions. Number 1, what would you do if you made a vow? Go ahead. What would you do? Answer. Go ahead.
If I made a vow, I would make sure I can keep it.
Yeah, you have to complete it. All right. What does a vow magnify of a person?
Their character.
Oh, no, not quite. Commitment, devotion. Okay. Why are vows different than oaths?
I know.
Go ahead. It has terms. It has conditions. Okay, it's like an if-then. If you do this, then I'll do this. How are vows considered religious acts? Yes, exactly. It brings God into the equation. Why are breaking vows considered bad?
It shames God's name.
Exactly. Thank you. And here are the answers in case. I posted it on Google Classroom. Okay. So, have you considered, this is something I'd never really considered before, have you considered studying honor shame culture? Yes or no?
No.
No, you should. I promise you.
Does it help you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because, raise your hand if you were raised in the Middle East.
Not me.
Yeah, so we're not really too familiar with honor shame culture. Okay, or Asia. Anybody from Asia? That's really big there too. No. Where have we been raised?
The United States.
United States. Do we have honor shame culture here?
No.
No, we do not. Sometimes, some instances. But overall, the United States doesn't have an honor shame culture. There are aspects of it because we have so many different cultures here in our society. But overall, you wouldn't say that America is an honor shame culture. Okay? So, a lot of these we're going to find are familiar. Okay, we probably already practice it in our houses, in our society. Okay? But it's really helpful whenever you study the Bible in the context of honor and shame, all over the New Testament, by the way, because I know a lot of us come from that background with Christianity and such. Okay, you're going to see a lot of this honor and shame all over the place. Okay? So, I took it from honorshame.com. It's largely I think it was a Christian-based website. So I don't agree with all this stuff they say. But they had this site up, this blog post of a lot of the honor and shame culture versus Western culture. So I encapsulated it into some graphs that we're going to cover. Okay, because it's going to be really helpful to understand why keeping vows are important in terms of honor and shame. All right, so on the left, we have family aspect of honor-shame society, and then we have the family in terms of the Western society, okay, the way they view it. So, your identity is found in family, in an honor-shame society, okay? So if my family is from the tribe of Reuben, what do I inherit? All that shame from what Reuben did. Okay, sleeping with his father's concubine, all that stuff. Reuben, the guy that joined his family, joined Korah. Alright, like that's a lot of shame. Okay, it doesn't want part of the inheritance in the land. But dude, just keep adding stuff, okay? So, if I'm from the tribe of Reuben, I have to deal with that. It has nothing that I had to do with, okay, I wasn't alive whenever my ancestor did that decision, okay, but I still inherit, okay? Honor is a shared commodity. Okay, one person brings honor or shame to an entire community. Alright, children are taught how to bring honor to family pretty early on, okay? And we also see that with manners, right? If somebody doesn't have good manners, who's that a reflection of?
Your parents.
Parents. Okay? So, in the Western society, family is voluntary. Have you ever learned that, or not learned, sorry, words are hard today. Where, how do they say it? Like blood. Family's not just blood, right? It's everybody else. And we have people leaving the family all the time, right? So, in the Western society, in our society, largely, I'm not saying, I don't want to speak for everybody, family is voluntary, okay? You can leave your family, you can cut ties with them, you could be, I was disowned by my grandma once, by the way. Yeah, funny story. Anyway, so, yep, just as an example, Western society, it's easy to just scissor, right? You're done, okay? So, that's in the Western society, but young adults are encouraged to venture out as well. And in honor and shame, they're very family oriented, and in Western, they're not. Okay, so you see the differences. Okay, one's very family oriented. Your identity is found in the family, whatever the identity is, that's what it is. Okay, but you can still bring honor to it. Okay, so in the case of Reuben, what would happen if the ancestors of Reuben decided to rebel against Korah in his rebellion? Do you think it would restore some honor back to Reuben's name? Perhaps it might, if you think about it. But it didn't play out that way. So, let's continue. Social capital. Do you know what capital is in terms of finance?
No.
What you could buy. Exchange of services. Okay. So, the network and the honor and shame. The network of a relationship is social money. Okay. Most important asset that you have is your reputation. Okay. We don't really see that too much. Okay. Problems are solved through relationships. Giving gifts, helping people, sharing, then you cash in. So, we actually see that a lot with, it's kind of devious the way they do it, but with schools, right? So say I'm filthy rich, and I donate $10 billion to Harvard. Okay, and then whenever my son grows up and he applies to Harvard, what do I expect?
That he gets in.
There you go. Okay, that's what that is. But in our culture, what's that seen as?
Bad.
Bad. But it's also bad because you bought it with money. You didn't buy it with honor. You didn't do something for the school, you just gave it money. You don't care what they do with it. Right? So that's not good. Okay, but what if we ascribe honor with Harvard? Okay, say we did something honorable. Like say, I'm not even going to go an example. Okay. So you see the giving gifts, helping people, brings honor to your reputation. Okay, and then you could use that to exchange gifts or exchange goods, services. Okay, it's not always about the money. So raise your hand if you ever thought of somebody with a lot of money as having a lot of value. I have. Raise your hand. If a billionaire walked in the room and you knew about it, you look at them different, right? Maybe good or bad, I don't know. Okay, but you see that in our culture we ascribe honor to people who have a lot of money. That's just how we're conditioned. Okay. We watch these shows with people with a lot of money. They have some big boats. Everyone says hi. Everyone likes them because they all want a piece of the pie. All right. But do they really have honor?
No.
No. Right. But from studying Torah, I've realized that honor is not something you can buy. Okay, it's something that is just in you. Okay, you either do it or you don't. You bring honor to your name or you bring shame. There's no difference. You can't buy it. All right. So in the Western society, solving problems through relationships is unfair. It's called manipulation to us. Okay, and sometimes it is. Let's just be fair. All right. If I'm shamed, right? If I have no honor, and I could, if I know how to play you, I can play you, and I can get what I want. Okay, I'm not saying that's how I am. I said that in that way. That's not what I meant. Okay, I'm just saying in our culture, that's how it's seen. Okay, but actual money is used to buy goods and services, right? Now in the honor and shame society, it's a little bit different. It's more give and take. Okay, as you go, everybody works together as a community. All right, it's not just I have more money than you, so I can buy cooler stuff. All right. So aggression. I remember watching a movie or a show, so I was watching something, and it was I think it was in the Asian community, and the dad got really angry at somebody for no reason. To me, no reason. Okay, it turns out that he was defending his honor. Okay, so honor must be rigorously defended. I should have spaced these out more. I apologize. All right, so honor must be defended with aggression. Okay, in that society. Okay, most of the time they compete for honor, but when a woman is shamed, male relatives appear weak. All right, and then also response is to defend family's name with aggression. Okay, something that is taken very seriously, the family's name. Okay, all right. So let's look in the Western society. Aggression is seen as bad behavior. Okay, and bad behavior is viewed as a crime against the state, not an insult to honor. So say my son, okay, hopefully not. Okay, but say he commits a capital crime. Now, is that a reflection of me if he's an adult? In our society? No. He's a grown man, he can make his own decisions, right? But am I actually shamed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I bear that shame. Okay. Because likewise, if we see a little kid with bad manners, who is it turned to?
The parents.
The parent. Likewise, if an adult, if he grows up to an adult, and he still has bad manners, and he still is rude and commits crimes, who is that still a reflection of? The parents. Okay? So, alright, so in our Western society, it's not really on us, it's on them, and it's between them and the government, no longer us. Okay, go ahead.
A great example of the honor and shame of aggression when a woman is shamed is the instance of Abraham, his sons, and the issue with Dinah, where Dinah is shamed, and so then at that night,
That's right.
the sons go in and start murdering everybody.
Thank you, I was thinking of an example. Yeah, y'all remember that story in Genesis? When you do? Okay, because somebody does. Okay. So what happens is Dinah was shamed through sex, right?
Yeah.
Through sex. And then the sons or the brothers? Brothers?
It was the brothers.
Brothers went and killed everybody. Okay, because? Yeah, they raped her.
They shamed her.
Yeah. So you see that the response to defend family's name is taken very seriously. Okay. Alright. Well, also, those who respond to dishonor with violence are immature. That's how we see it sometimes. Right? It's like, dude, it's no big deal, relax. No. Like, you brought shame to my name, I'm going to defend it. Alright? So, words. Okay? Words are seen different too. Words in honor and shame, different greetings for different status. Hey, nowadays, hey dude. I say that for everybody. Okay, hey dude. Or, hey dude. Right? But is that appropriate for everybody?
No.
No. Imagine me going to the pastor, like, hey dude.
That's bad.
What would happen?
That's disrespectful.
It's disrespectful. Okay, so we see there are some aspects of honor shame in our culture.
I won't into that one.
Words are tools for defining social hierarchy. All right. Now, in the Western society, words communicate information and facts as opposed to honor. Okay, and it's also indirect communication prioritizes harmony and stats. Why did I say stats? I don't know why I put that one up there. Okay. I don't know. Status. That's what I meant. Prioritizes harmony and status. That's looked at as deceptive, dishonest, or manipulative. Okay, so it's like, have you ever heard someone say "bless your heart"?
Oh yeah, my.
Many times.
And what's that mean? It means like 80 different things. Okay, so that's looked at deceptive, dishonest, or manipulative. Otherwise, fake. Okay, that indirect communication like that. Okay. Now, if I say "bless your heart," you messed up. You messed up. Okay. All right, let's look at food. This is super, super important. I want your attention on this. Okay? We've covered covenants like I think 80 bajillion times, right? I bet you're tired of it. Okay, I'm not, so we're gonna keep talking about it. Okay, so covenants are super important. We just saw that a vow with Jacob. Okay, vow. We saw usage of.
You're talking about Esau and Jacob.
That's before the fact, but along the same lines.
He got betrayed over a bowl of soup.
So you see, food is taken different. Okay, it's like that different. Even I was reading the book The Covenant of Salt, and if you go to the Middle East and you share a meal with somebody, if they put salt on it, you're kind of in covenant with them for the time being. Okay, it's taken very seriously. You'll have the tradition at Shabbat, I don't know if you do, where you add salt to the bread. It's a covenantal meal. Okay, that's wine. We also see that that's also part of a covenant. Okay, with blood. All right. Gosh, I could just go on and on. The pillar. Okay, setting up the pillar as a testimony to the covenant. We saw that with Jacob, right? Just read that. So a vow is equating to a covenant in a lot of instances. Okay, so let's talk about food. We know that in the honor-shame society, if you break a vow, you're shamed. That's it. Okay? So, y'all ever heard the saying, like, you are who you hang around with? That's true. It's something we all know, right? Okay, so let's look at it. Food represents the gift of life. Okay, so it's taken seriously. It's not just McDonald's. Okay, it's not just something to sit in my stomach so I don't get hangry. Okay, it's taken seriously. Why do you think that so many honor-shame societies are a lot healthier than us? You ever thought about that? They take food seriously. Okay. They actually read the labels. Okay. So the people you eat with define both your community and identity. We see that in the New Testament too with Peter. Okay. Why do you think that they weren't really supposed to sit with Gentiles? Honor shame. Okay. You see that who you hang around with is your identity. And at that time, well, different topic. Okay. So breaking bread together imparts honor. So if we invite you over for Shabbat, okay, we break bread together and I give you salt. Let's say we're all in covenant together. Okay? I give you honor, you give me honor, we're cool. Okay? So what happens if you're trying to kill me? Say I invite you over for Shabbat and you really don't like me. Okay, and you're trying to kill me. And I give you salt. You can't do it. And you eat it, you can't do it. That's implying that you're in covenant with me too. Okay? So if you had bad intentions, they're nullified by eating the salt, you can't do it. But if you reject the salted meal, now I know. You had ill intentions. Same way with the threshold, right? Remember we talk about the thief?
Oh, different mind.
The thief, right? So why do you think the thief has to dig? The word there was dig. Why couldn't he just come through the front door? Y'all remember? Y'all remember? What is it?
Because it was like, you're in covenant, you're like, they're supposed to protect you.
Exactly. So remember Lot and the angels? Okay, they walked through the front door, what happened? Lot legally had to protect them because now they're kind of in covenant together. Okay, covenant, threshold covenant. All right, same way with the food. If you reject a meal that I give you, how would you feel?
Bad.
Yeah, so like say, Shai, you make me a meal. Okay, and I reject it, how would you feel? I would cry. Right, if I made you a meal and you didn't eat it, I would cry. Simple. Okay? So in the Western society, it's seen as just to satisfy hunger, lose weight, satisfy cravings. It's not about communal, okay? It's not about any of that. Alright? Alright. Cool. So discuss. This is your chance to talk. Alright, have you seen honor-shame culture in our society?
Yeah, no.
Talk.
Yes.
Go ahead. Talk. If you want me to go back to a particular slide, I could do it so that we can all see it.
Some people shame me for being mentally ill.
Some would shame you for that, just being shameful themselves.
That's true.
So there you go. It's another time. Again, definitely like the South is still the biggest proponent of honor shame.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Appalachia and then the South. You go around and you start disrespecting people, you're going to get beat up with that.
Well,
good question. That's cool.
Is finding
Talking about a person like ruining their reputation, respect on self,
It's the honor shame, it's just all about honor with respect, and that's exactly what it is. If you disrespect me, then I'm angry, I'm deflected. It's the same process. The same for
Ready?
too. I love that.
Ready?
you learn more different
Sweet.
than me.
Alright, so we look at, especially Florida, right? Especially Florida, but United States as a whole, it's kind of a melting pot of all different sorts of types of culture. Okay, whenever you think of the South, you think of communal meals. Okay, you think of eating together as a family. It's more family oriented. You go to say, I don't know, my only experience was with New York. Okay, you go to New York, it's not like that. That's hustle bustle, eat on the road, you know, always working, not as family oriented. To what I've seen, I could be wrong. Okay, I don't want to put words in everybody's mouth. Okay, they're very mean up there too. Okay, don't order sweet tea, just don't do it. They'll look at you like you have 4 eyes. I promise you, they don't know. So, all right, learn that lesson. But you see that the cultures are very different wherever you go. Okay, but we do actually see a lot of this honor shame in our society. We do. Okay, if I find, say, Bill Gates, say you're related to, actually that's a poor example.
Like in our modern day, a lot of the same values you'll see here are associated with, and I'm going to go with this, but we all know the terms conservative, liberal. A lot of conservative values are going to match with honor and shame. With liberal, it's going to be the idea that they've progressed beyond that, so they're less focused on these honor and shame ideals, the ideal family, which is why it's more conservative people that you see in the South who kind of abide by these.
That's true, that's fair.
Generally.
So, say you're related to Aaron the priest. Now, would you have more honor? Just right away, just from that?
Yes.
Yes, right? So, does this sound familiar?
Yes.
Yeah, that's something that we all kind of do. All right, say you're related to, who's a really bad person? Stop, dude. Cora. Who say you're related to Cora? All right. Would you inherit shame?
Yes.
Yes, you would. So you see that. That's kind of, that's still around today. We do also see that young adults, I was encouraged to venture out and do my own thing. Okay, now my family's trying to be more family oriented. They're really not though. Okay, they're really not. Okay, but they are trying their best. Okay, so they're starting to realize that family is not really home. I didn't get a choice, you know. Okay, so my family is my family and I have to deal with it. Okay, and all of its chaos.
That's true.
I like your hats. Alright. We also see that network of relationships is also seen as social money. So your reputation is important, right? So I remember in college somebody, because listen, I wasn't the nicest guy. Alright. So somebody asked me this simple question and it changed my life right away. If they said, actually it wasn't really a question, they told me straight up, you suck. Okay, so let me tell you how. They said, listen, if somebody told me that you did X, Y, Z, which wasn't a good thing, I'd believe it. I'm like, why though? Like, what the heck? I'm such a nice guy. You know, no, I believe it because of your reputation. That's how you do it. That's how you do things. I'm like, oops. You know, so then maybe I need to reconsider a lot of my actions.
I like your hair.
Appreciate it.
Makes you look educated.
And the glasses, it's all the glasses. So you see that reputation is super important nowadays, right? And so now we could exchange, like you said, we could exchange respectable versus disrespect with honor and shame. It's not the same thing. If you find somebody who's respectable, you're honorable, right? If you come across somebody that's disrespectful, it's shameful, right? It is. You don't want to hang out with them. Okay? But we do also see actual money does buy things. Okay, it could buy you a boat, okay, and a truck to pull it. Y'all know that song? Okay, that's fine.
I do it.
That's fine, okay. So you see that money can buy goods, but also in our culture, we value money a lot. Okay, we don't think that we do, but we really do.
Because we think it can get us places.
Exactly.
But it won't make us happy for some reason because it's all about greed.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. Alright, so we don't really see this too much in terms of aggression. Okay, I still lean more towards that in terms of how I view it with our culture. Okay, because I don't see honor being defended with aggression. I don't see it. You know, if you shame me, whatever, dude. You know, you bear that shame, right? That's our mentality. Okay, if someone punches me in the face, and if I respond back, I look like I'm immature. Okay, now we're taught is to be the bigger person. Be the bigger person. Just let them do whatever they want to do. But that would not fly in an honor-shame society. You know, they will hurt you. Okay, so you see, that's where kind of still lean towards that. Okay.
Why are you doing that with the hats?
All right. So you see, we still do have this. Okay. If I call you, actually, we have more down here in the south. We see that. I don't want to say here is the south. Okay, we're really not. Okay. But if you go up maybe 3 hours, you'll be in the south. So if you greet somebody as you would greet just your friend, they won't like you. I promise you that right now. If I talk to my grandma the way I talk to Tony, she would disown me again.
He disowns you?
So I still lean more towards this and this. Okay, we do see both sides. Okay, this is where we definitely differ. Okay, I do not see food this way. I'm starting to. I would like to look at it as a gift of life and, you know, eat more meals for people. That's just not how our society is, though. Okay, it's just not. We're not conditioned that way. All right, we're conditioned to McDonald's, fast food, Burger King, Subway. Okay, we're used to eating on the fly. We're used to eating fast. Okay, and they're usually not nutrient dense. Now you look at other societies. Think of a honor shame society right now, off the top of your head. From Asia. You said Asia?
Japan.
Yeah.
Japan.
Japanese.
Japan, that's a great example. They are healthy, y'all. They're really healthy. For the most part.
They're used to share a meal together. It's
They
part
don't
of
eat
their
fast.
culture.
You know, it's their culture, right? Look at same with Korea, right? Same with Korea. China, same thing. We have a lot of these healthier cultures than us. Okay, they're somewhat that healthy. Okay, but compared to us, anybody. Okay. I actually found this. I think South Sudan, a lot of African countries have the lowest rate of cancer. I found that out. But they also subscribe to this way too. Okay. All right. Yeah, we already did that. I was like, oh my god, another discussion. All right, review questions. All right, tell me if this belongs to honor shame or Western. I could just call it out when I'm done, okay? All right, utilizing network of relationships to solve problems. Honor shame. Identity being found in family. Honor shame. Food as satisfying hunger.
Western.
Bad behavior is crime against the state or government.
Western.
Reputation as an asset.
Honor shame.
Honor shame.
And family being voluntary.
Western. Oh, that's confusing.
Everybody got it right. Good job. All right, Katuba. Y'all seen this before?
That's so cute. No.
Yeah, that's from Google. That's from Google. So, that's from Google. I was going to take a picture of ours, but my signature's kind of funky. So, the Katuba is a contract. All right. And these are kind of like vows. Okay. These are like marital vows. Okay. In a lot of typical weddings, you would see like, not Hebrew weddings, but, well, we did that. We read it. But they'll just exchange vows. They do it on their own, right? They exchange it, okay? And apparently you can just break them off the drop of the hat if you want to, right? Right. That's what you see. That's what you see a lot, okay? Now this takes it one step further, okay? You see that we have the vows on a sheet of paper, and we sign it with witnesses, and we date it. What does that say?
But it's supposed to be permanent?
Yeah, vows are supposed to be permanent. Right? It's not supposed to be like, it's conditional. If I want to, I'll be a good husband. You know, that's not how it is.
That's real marriage right there.
That's what it is. Literally, I signed that I would do these things. And if I don't, my witnesses can testify against me, as well as God, because we invoked his name. We're in covenant with him.
Oh, you're strict on yourself.
I'm not necessarily strict on myself. I have higher values for my character.
Your honor.
My honor, right? So if I break this, I like to read this every so often. We have it on our wall. Okay, so I like to be reminded of my duty. Okay, that I signed I will do because I love you. It's not just about lovey-dovey, roses. You know, it's not always about that. Okay, love, as we've been studying the ancient Near East, is it just about affection? What's it about?
It's about commitment and promises.
Thank you, right? So if I love my wife and I don't do this, what happens?
You're
Not
not committed to
religious.
I'm
her.
not committed. Do I actually love you? I don't know. Right? So I have to show my commitment. I have to show my love for you by abiding by the contract that we signed. Okay? And not just because I have to, but because I want to, because I want to be committed to, and I want you to feel that. Same way, I expect her to do the same for me if she does a wonderful job. Okay? So you see, this is legally binding the second we sign it. Actually, the second that we agreed to it is actually when it's legally binding, but we just went the extra step and signed it with witnesses. Okay? So my little brother will testify against me if I do not do it.
What does your brother look like? I want to see a
Me.
picture. Oh.
Poor guy. Alright, vows pertaining to women. This is where we get into it. Okay, we've established what a vow is already. Okay? What's a similar word that we could use? Whenever we see vow, we could think covenant. Okay? Covenant. So is it binding?
Yes.
Yes. So if we say a vow, are we obligated to keep it? Yes. What happens if we don't keep it? What happens? Who gets shamed? Us and God. Is that something we want to do? I highly recommend not doing that. Okay? So let's talk about it with women, okay? Now,
Like what?
God preserves, by doing so, by allowing a woman to be able to nullify a vow, it's really awesome, y'all. Okay? Like, us fellas don't have that luxury. Like, if we say we gotta do something, we're gonna do it. We have to. Okay? Because we said a vow. Alright? But y'all get a chance to have it nullified. Okay? Now, that preserves the honor of the family. Okay? Because say my wife, she agrees to a vow, and I hear of it, but I don't say anything, which means it still stands, right? Okay? But if I heard about it and I said no, then it's valid. It's invalidated, we're good. Okay? But if I say nothing, the vow still stands, and say she's not able to go follow through with it, the family gets shamed. Okay? I had my chance to nullify it. Okay? Now, what if I oppose her and I get in the way of her fulfilling the vow? Say, I don't know, I just woke up in a bad mood and I'm an unrighteous man. Say I do that. Okay? Who bears the shame? Her or me?
Her.
No, me. Because I get in the way. Right? So, y'all women have a wonderful, wonderful chance. Okay? And we need to look at it that way too. Okay? Don't look at it as God putting you in a box. Okay? He's literally giving you outs for a vow. Which is pretty awesome. Okay? So women are free to do a vow, but have certain limitations. Okay? Which actually isn't that bad. Don't look at it as a bad thing. Okay? If a woman is single and under her father's care, he has the right to nullify the vow. Okay? If a woman is married, the husband has the right to nullify the vow. Okay? However, now, what does what does a divorced or widow woman not have? A husband. Okay? Now they're out of the family, right? The father's not in control of her anymore, right? Okay, so if she loses a husband, there's no one to nullify the vow. Okay? So she'll bear the consequences herself if she doesn't complete it. Okay, by the way, this is why we're instructed all the time in the New Testament too, to just say yes or no, don't do no. Simple. If you're not able to do it, just don't do it. Okay? Alright, men, we have no one to nullify it. So if we can't do it, we're screwed. Simple. Okay, we bear the shame right away. Okay, so if men don't complete it, it's completely on them. And if they interfere with the vow that his daughter or wife made, then he faces the consequences, not the woman. So it preserves the honor of the woman. Okay. Again, that also goes with the temple. Like women not being able to go all the way in the temple. That's a good thing. Okay, because if you consider what women did in temples around the ancient Near East, y'all remember what it was? Prostitution. Okay.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh, okay. So God preserves the honor of His women, okay, Israelite women, by doing so. Okay, so you also have to consider that whenever you study it. Okay, it's not just no, I don't want you going past here because I don't feel like it. No, it's to preserve your honor. Okay. Let's review section 1, the whole thing. Does a man have anyone to get him out of English? A vow?
No.
No. In what cases does a vow have someone to know?
As
What?
a woman.
And what did I say?
Wow.
In what cases does a woman have someone to nullify a vow for them?
None.
Married?
Oh, or widowed too. two.
Daughter, right? So if she's not married and she's still under the care of the father. Okay. When would a man take the guilt of a broken vow of a woman?
If he
If he interfered, yes. Go ahead.
I want to ask, what if like she's an orphan though? It doesn't have a father.
What? I'm sorry.
She's an orphan.
Yeah.
Oops. That's something I never considered.
If she's not married and doesn't have a father, then she bears the iniquity of the vow.
It's on her, yeah. That's a good question. All right. Does this sound like honor shame culture or Western culture? Your identity is with your family and their reputation.
honor shame.
Does it sound like honor shame or Western? Food is merely a satisfaction of craving, not about fellowship.
Western.
What is profaned when you break a vow?
God's name.
God's name, including your own. Your name too. Okay, consider that. So okay. If you look at vows and you say, well, it's just verbal, it's not legally binding, right? And say I don't evoke a deity. Who's still shamed when you break your own vow?
You. Yeah.
You. Is that something you want to do? I don't want to be shamed by myself. You do it to yourself. Okay, so if you take a vow, just don't break it. Either way you look at it, there's no way to justify it. Okay, you can't say, well, I didn't invoke a deity, so I'm good. No, your word means nothing. That's what that means. Okay. Alright, are vows obligatory? Yes. Alright, yeah, so, no Swirsky. We don't. Okay.
What is Nasorski?
It's just we don't. And then yes. Alright, let's talk about the cities, alright? I'm making decent time. I think we're going to end early than we should, but that's okay. It's a shorter one. Now, this section does have a lot of reading, just fair advance. Okay, so don't get mad at me. I told you. Alright? So, can I have some volunteers?
Me.
I figured. Alright, so we're going to talk more about righteousness and justice with this one. Alright, because the Levite, we're going to talk about the Levites, okay, as well as people who are not convicted of murder, accused of murder. Alright, and say if they're innocent, they didn't commit murder, well, they have to go somewhere, okay, because there's someone hunting you to pay the debt, okay, it's usually the father or the next kid, okay, so, who wants to read? I don't. Go ahead.
The Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho, saying, command the people of Israel to give to the Levites some of the inheritance of their possession as cities for them to dwell in. And you shall give to the Levites pasture lands around the cities. The cities shall be theirs to dwell in, and their pasture land shall be their cattle, for the livestock, for all their beasts. The pasture lands of the cities which you shall give to the cities Levites shall reach from the wall of the city outward 1,000 cubits all around. And you shall measure outside the city on the east side 2,000 cubits, and on the south side 2,000 cubits, and on the west side 2,000 cubits, and on the north side 2,000 cubits. The city being in the middle, this shall belong to them as pasture land for their cities.
Thank you. So I just essentially highlighted and bolded the important one. Okay. All right. So we see that they are commanded to give Levites some of their land, not as like to keep as their own land, like the Levites owned it. It's not the case. It's like renting an apartment. Okay. Because keep in mind, the Levites had no inheritance of land. What was their inheritance? God. Okay. So they didn't really have land. Okay. So this is really important because not all of the Levites all at the same time served in the temple at the same time. Otherwise, actually that just wouldn't work. Yeah, there'd be no room to do anything. Okay. So they rotated, they have shifts. So where do the Levites stay if they have no land, they have no inheritance, okay, and they all can't be at the temple at the same time? Where do they go? Well, God has a solution. Okay, cities, called the Levitical cities. Let's continue.
The cities that you...
Like Crystal.
The cities that you give to the Levites shall be 6 cities of refuge,
Whoops.
where you shall permit the manslayer to flee. In addition to them, you shall give 42 cities. All the cities that you give to the Levites shall be 48 with their pasture lands.
And as for the cities that you shall give for the possession of the people of Israel, from the larger tribes you shall take many, and from the smaller tribes you shall take few, each in proportion to the inheritance that it inherits shall give of its cities to the Levites.
Okay. So there's 6 cities of refuge. Okay, we're going to talk about those. Okay, and there's 42 other cities that are not cities of refuge. Okay, the total is 48. We'll do the math later. Okay. So who wants to go?
I'll go.
Okay. Rico Jr. called it first, right?
And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israel and say to them, When you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall select to be cities of refuge for you. But the manslayer who kills any person without the intent may flee there. The city shall be for you a refuge from the avenger, that the manslayer may not die until he stands before the congregation for judgment. And the cities that you shall give, that you give shall be your 6 cities of refuge. You shall give 3 cities beyond the Jordan, and 3 cities in the land of Canaan to be cities of refuge. These 6 cities shall be for refuge for the people of Israel, and for the stranger, and for the sojourner among you, and anyone who kills any person without intent may flee there.
So what did I highlight? Yeah, okay. So, you see, I want to talk about the difference between murder and manslaughter. Okay, I'm not a lawyer, so don't quote me on this. So, murder, though, I do know, is unlawful killing. Okay, that's murder. Okay, so if, hypothetically, say if someone's convicted of a crime and their sentence is death, well, that's not murder. Okay, but say I would never do, but if I found somebody and I just killed them on the street, that would be murder. That's unlawful killing. There's no reason for me to do that. Okay, that's the difference. Now, when I was young, go ahead.
It's also intentional.
Okay, that's no. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, you'll see that, when I was young and naive, I justified not believing in God because he's a murderer. Yes, I said that. I was young and dumb, you know. Well, if you read it, that's what it looks like if you don't know the definition of murder. Okay, murder is unlawful killing. Whenever God kills or gets rid of people, it's justifiable. Okay, because they broke a covenant. Okay, because they had an act of war against Israel for some reason that is lawful. God just doesn't kill people. That's not what he does. Okay, so we're going to talk about the definition. Okay. Also, I want to notice this. For the people of Israel, Israelites, and the stranger and the sojourner, everybody can partake in the cities of refuge if they're innocent. Okay, not just the Israelites, which is really interesting. Okay.
Quote time, because I'm too lazy to type it all out. Let's be honest.
Yeah, so let's just read the quote. Okay, and I'll summarize it. Alright, so the avenger of blood. Now, this is a person that will chase you and find you and kill you if you kill somebody. Okay? Alright, is who redeems a lost life of relative by exacting the life of the murderer. Life for life. Okay? The responsibility to carry out this judgment falls to the nearest surviving relative, whether it be the father, the oldest brother, and down the line. Okay? The city of refuge provides a safe haven. Oh, y'all seen John Wick?
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
You know the hotel? Yeah. What's not allowed in that hotel?
Fighting, killing.
Killing, right? Yeah, this is probably not appropriate to talk about, but it makes sense. Okay? In that hotel, you cannot kill anybody. That's it. If you do, well, they have 4 movies to find out. Okay? So, this is really important, okay? Because the avenger of blood, okay, cannot kill that person inside of that city. But if that person is found outside the city, he can kill him and he's not guilty of it. Okay, so he has to stay inside the city, and we'll see that why later on. Okay. All right. Provides a safe haven for the manslayer until the community has opportunity to ascertain, which means judge the nature of the crime, whether he's innocent or guilty. Okay. All right. Want to continue?
Oh, me.
Go ahead.
But if he struck him down with an iron object so that he died, he is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. And if he struck him down with a stone so that could cause death, and he died, he is a murderer.
That shows intent, by the way.
The murderer shall be put to death, or if he struck him down with a wooden tool that could cause death, and he died, he is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. The avenger of blood shall himself put the murderer to death. When he meets him, he shall put him to death. And if he push him out of hatred or hurled something at him lying in wait, oh my God, so that he died, or in enmity struck him down with his hand, so that he died, then he who struck the blow shall be put to death. He is a murderer. The avenger of blood shall put the murderer to death when he meets him.
So, all of that's important, and let me tell you why. Because all of this shows intent. Okay? Most importantly, this second part here. Because if I shoot you and you die, now all depending on the context, of course. Okay? But that showed intent. If I fired the bullet, I knew where it was going to go. Okay? So that showed intent. Of course, still context. Okay? There's still a lot. I can't just be guilty because of that. Okay? But you see here, where is it? Right here. If he pushed him out of hatred or hurled something at him, lying in wait so that he died, or in enmity, which is anger, struck him down with his hand so that he died, it's still murder. Okay? Because you had a lot of anger, you acted out of anger. It's not just, oops, bumped you and you fell. Okay, it's not like that. Let's talk about the definition of murder, alright, according to Oxford Languages, because I don't know how to cite, I was never taught that. Okay? So, it is unlawful, premeditated killing of a human being by another. Okay, unlawful, premeditated. So, these two words are really important. Unlawful. So, if the murderer is, say, to be put to death, the one who puts him to death, is that a murder? No, that's because that's lawful. Okay, God says, yes, we put to death. Because, and we'll also see this too, later on, we'll read it, that the shedding of blood pollutes the land. This is really important.
Why is that?
We'll talk about that. Maybe. Okay, also premeditating is also murder. Okay, if I set a trap and I wait for you and then you fall into it and you die, I set the trap, I waited for you, I knew what I was going to do. Okay?
I can be
Okay, I'll go ahead and read this one if you want, because it's kind of long. But if you push him suddenly without enmity, so without anger or anything like that, or rolled anything on him without lying in wait, or used a stone that could cause death, and without seeing him dropped it on him so that he died, though he was not his enemy and did not seek his harm, then the congregation shall judge between the manslayer and the avenger of blood in accordance with these rules. So, if it was by accident, that's what it's saying. Okay? And the congregation shall rescue the manslayer from the hand of the avenger of blood. You notice it's the whole congregation that does it. It's the whole city. It's not just like two guys. It's like, oh, okay, you're innocent. Let me take care of you. No, the whole community makes sure he's okay. Okay? Shall restore him to his city of... Shall rescue the manslayer from the hand of the avenger of blood. And the congregation shall restore him to his city of refuge to which he had fled. And he shall live in it until... This is where it gets kind of... Until the death of the high priest who is anointed with the Holy Ghost. Why might that be? I thought that was so weird when I read that. I'm like, dude, why the high priest? That makes no sense. Remember, blood for blood, right? Okay, so who can die on behalf of anybody? I suppose, right? But you see that this happens with the Day of Atonement. The priest doesn't die, but his offerings atone for the congregation, right? So is there anybody in the entire community outside of where he is that can die on behalf of him? The guy that committed the murder? Or was accused of it? No, right? Except for the high priest. So it's life for life, he's good. Once the high priest is dead, alright, go back in. Okay, you're free from that debt. Okay? Yeah, if it was an accident. If you did kill him with premeditation, if you committed murder, it's GG's. Alright, that's it. Alright, but if the manslayer shall at any time go beyond the boundaries of a city of refuge to which he fled, and the avenger of blood finds him outside the city of refuge, the avenger of blood, Lucas, and the avenger of blood kills the manslayer, he shall not be guilty of blood. So, this is a scenario. If I was accused of murder, but I was found innocent, I stay in the city of refuge. Oops, sorry. I stay in the city of refuge, but if I go, say Haines City is the city of refuge, and I go to Davenport, I don't know, because I wanted some culverts, and, we have one in Haines City, yeah, so never mind, Panera. Say I want some Panera, okay, and I go to Davenport, and the avenger of blood finds me, what can he do? He can kill me and he's fine. He's not going to be
Scary.
called a murderer, right? Because I left the city of refuge. It was my fault. Okay? Important to know. For he must remain in his city of refuge until the death of the high priest. But after the death of the high priest, the manslayer may return to the land of his possession. And these things shall be a statute and rule for you throughout your generations in all your dwelling places. Question, can we still... Well... Never mind. Is Florida Israel?
No.
So can we really do this one here?
No.
No. Okay, so I have, at the end there's 2 commandments in this portion that we can start doing today. Okay, and I have them listed, okay? But this is unfortunate, it's not one. Okay, Hain City cannot be a refuge. Okay, it's not Israel.
And go
All of
to
that
another
was important to
country.
summarize it. Quotes, I'm too lazy. Alright, so, I'll read it and I'll summarize it. According to Joshua 20, verse 4, one seeking asylum is another fancy word for like safe haven, okay, must appear at the entrance to the city gate, okay, because this is where the city's elders and judges hear and settle the judicial cases. Alright? So if you had a case, you would go to the gates of the city and they judge your case and then you come back, okay? If the case is determined accidental, the Levitical city will offer asylum and sanctuary, okay? You're okay if you're accidental. The sending of a person convicted of manslaughter back to the city suggests that the trial takes. Oh, he's guilty. Okay, if he's sent back to the city, he's guilty. That way, the blood kinsman can kill him. Okay, and avenge him. Let's see. All right, so here, one convicted of manslaughter must remain. I'm right here. One convicted of manslaughter must remain in the city of refuge until the death of the high priest, which marks the end of an era in Israelite cultic history. Okay, I'm going to continue. In effect, the death of the individual or the high priest ransoms the death of the victim. Okay, so if I was a manslayer in this case, okay, and I was allowed to stay inside the city of refuge, which means I'm innocent, right? If I was sent back to my city, that would mean I'm what? Guilty. And someone's there to kill me. Okay. Go ahead.
We actually see examples of this exact thing happening in our modern day justice system, where if someone came from a different country, let's say Ghana or wherever, and they were guilty of a crime there, and if we as the United States agree that yes, they're guilty, then we send them back. That means that A, you're guilty, and that's a form of what we call extradition. So this is a form, an ancient form, extradition between cities, and even we see that now in America between states, where if I'm wanted in one state, I flee to another for safety. If I'm guilty, that state can send me back for judgment in my home state.
If they catch you.
If they catch me.
Yeah. All right. Anybody want to read this one?
Me.
I know.
Why are we?
In the beginning.
If anyone kills a person, the murderer shall be put to death on the evidence of witnesses, but no person shall be put to death on the testimony of one witness. Moreover, you shall accept no ransom for the life of a murderer, who is guilty of death, but he shall be put to death.
Let me say something real quick. By the way, this is contrary to the ancient Near East. Okay, if you committed murder in the ancient Near East, you could pay your way out of it. Okay, so God's like, nope, no amount of money can buy you out of shedding blood up in the land. Okay, sound cool? Alright, continue.
And you shall accept no ransom for him who has fled to his city of refuge, that he may return to dwell in the land before the death of the high priest. You shall not pollute the land in which you live, for blood pollutes the land, and no atonement can be made for the land of the blood for the blood that is shed in it, except by the blood of the one who shed it.
So real quick, you see that righteousness and justice is preserved in this instance, okay? What pollutes the land? Shedding of blood, okay? So if I shed someone's blood by accident and I was killed, is that good or is that good justice?
No.
No. So you see that, and that's how it would be in the ancient Near East. If I killed somebody, I would have to die. Simple as that. Okay. So you see that justice is preserved, right? Okay. But we don't consider that when reading. Okay. Go ahead.
You shall not defile the land in which you live, in the midst of which I dwell, for I, the Lord, dwell in the midst of the people of Israel.
Can God live in polluted land? Can we live in Chernobyl? Y'all know Chernobyl? No. So it's Ukraine, right? It's in Ukraine. And basically there's like a nuclear meltdown and it's like uninhabitable for a long time. So it's polluted land, right? Can we live there? No sirski. Right, so if the land of Israel is defiled by people killing each other, can God really live there? No. Okay, so you see the importance of that. Yeah, the whole thing was important. But luckily we did it. Cool time. No one can be executed on the basis of a single witness to a crime. A minimum of 2 witnesses is necessary for a conviction of a capital crime. This is consistent with cases
delineated
you said it better than I
in
would.
Deuteronomy as well as
ancient Eastern law codes such as Hammurabi. Bribery, ransom, or other forms of compensation for the death of a human being are strictly prohibited, whether death is manslaughter or murder, okay? Essentially, if I am convicted of murdering somebody and there's only 1 witness, no, that's not how it works. You have to have 2 witnesses, okay? All right. So this is the same map that Rick is in your head on. Okay, I want you to notice, okay, so this one up here, you see Kadesh up there? You see this one, Golan, you see Ramoth, Gilead, thank you. Bezer and Hebron and Shechem. Notice how they're spread out. You see that? That's really convenient, actually. Because say you're in Tanakh, okay? There's always, and wherever you are, there's always going to be a city of refuge relatively close to you. It's really convenient, actually. Alright, so, let's count real quick. Okay, so we have 48 Levitical cities total and 6 cities of refuge. Okay, so what's 48 minus 6? 42. So there's 42 other cities that the Levites stay at that are not cities of refuge. Not all Levitical cities are cities of refuge, but all cities of refuge are Levitical cities. Does that make sense? So if I am convicted of manslaughter, okay, I don't know. I don't even know the words because I'm not a lawyer. Accused, okay? And I'm at a city of refuge. What kind of people are going to be around here? Levites. Okay. Okay, because it's a Levitical city. That's where they're going to be. Okay? All right. Oh yeah, let's talk about why. So the Levites, I kind of talked about this earlier. Okay, the Levites had no land inheritance. Okay, their inheritance was God. Everyone else, though, had land that was theirs, including homes. Okay, so Levites really had nowhere to stay. Okay, except for the temple whenever they were serving. So where did the Levites stay when they weren't serving in the temple? Y'all tell me. There's 48 of them. Yeah, the Levitical cities. Okay. All right. So there's 2 commandments that we can do today. Okay. It's from chapter 30, verse 3, and then chapter 35, verse 12. It is forbidden to break one's word in vows made. Oops. It is forbidden to execute a guilty person who deserves death before he stands trial. Now, question. Why would it be forbidden to break one's word in vows made? Why? Say it louder.
Because it shames God.
Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate you. Yeah, because it shames God. And also it brings shame to you. Okay? And that's shaming your family, which shames your tribe. Okay, look at Reuben. The whole tribe is completely shamed because of his one action. Well, he did a lot, let's be real. Okay, because of his actions, the whole tribe is shamed, even though they had nothing to do with it. Can you notice? Okay. Alright. It is also forbidden to execute a guilty person who deserves death before he stands trial. Why? Even though we all know he's guilty, but he didn't stand trial, we would be convicted of murderers ourselves if we killed him before trial. Because there has to be witnesses. Okay, there has to be justice. Alright? So legally I have to have this slide because it was created by SlideScale. I made it, but they had the template. Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, any questions?
Oh my God.
Can you go back to the slides about a woman making a vow?
Oh, yeah.
And the verses there, because there's something important in there that is kind of being overlooked, that sets apart the vows that are nullified from the vows that are not.
Right.
Whenever we get there.
These 2.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. All right. So in verse 8.
We can switch.
Sure, let's swap it out. So just real quick. So in verse 8, but if on the day that her husband comes to hear of it, and he opposes her, he makes void her vow that was on her, and the thoughtless utterance of her lips by which she bound herself. So we have to understand. The vows that are being annulled by the husband are not something that like, oh, I vow I want to serve God. The husband's like, oh yeah. It's not quite the same thing.
Can we stop recording?
Yeah, you can stop. That's fine.
That's not the same thing we're talking about. It's another reason why it mentions